Hi, I thought I'd do a video talking about endometriosis and my journey with endo because I've done a post during the beginning of my page a little bit about my journey and some of the symptoms I've had, and I do a lot of awareness posts on endometriosis for women because I think it's so important once you've been diagnosed with something and the journey you've been through and all the problems with people not believing you or being misdiagnosed. I just think it's so important to share things if you feel you can and connect with people and try and help them, because you've been through that before, I've been through that before, and still going through things, and it can honestly be so hard mentally. So I just think it's really important to get things out there to help women and girls who aren't sure what's going on with their bodies. So for me personally, it all started when I was 12 years old. That was when I started my periods, and from the start they were just crazy painful. Like, honestly, they were really, really painful. And I remember I'd be at school and I just couldn't function on my periods. I'd be in immense crazy pain, and at the time we never heard of endometriosis. It was never taught at my school, probably most schools. They'd never heard of the condition. I'd never been told about really painful periods, what was normal, what wasn't normal. So for me, I just thought at the time, oh, I must be quite weak, I don't handle this well at all. But I remember I'd be sat waiting at school to be sent home, to get my dad to come and pick me up. I'd just be being sick, I'd be in absolute agony, and I just would remember I couldn't function with them. I remember I'd get in the car straight away when my dad was here, and I'd just cry my eyes out, and I'd get in bed with a hot water bottle, and that'd be me for a week. Would not move. I just couldn't move. It was just, from the start, they were very painful. And so that was my periods. That was the first symptoms I'd say I'd had with endometriosis. Really painful periods and very, very heavy bleeding. I remember I'd bleed a lot, and it would be for a week and a half, sometimes longer. Yeah, very painful. And so I'd say that was what I was dealing with for the first couple of years. And then when I was 14, that was when I started with my debilitating, excruciating back pain. And it was just another level. At first I wasn't sure. I didn't put it two and two together with my periods, because why would I? I just thought, I don't know what I thought, if I'm being completely honest. I was a young girl, I was at school, I was doing my GCSEs at the time, and I just remember I couldn't move with my back one day. And it'd start off where it'd be a week or a little bit longer, and it was with my period a lot of the time, and I just couldn't move my back. I'd be like a 90-degree angle, bent over, and that was me. Couldn't move, couldn't function. And me and my family were obviously really scared and concerned. What's going on? Why is such a young girl not able to move? Why can't she move her body and her back? And basically I noticed as my periods were getting worse, and each month this would keep happening, it gets my period, my back would go, I'd be laid up off school in bed for a week or more. And then it just kept happening and happening, and then it got to the point where it wasn't just with my periods anymore, it was 24/7. My back, I would just be walking like an old woman, like a 90-degree angle, I'm not even exaggerating, and I would be on crutches every single day at the age of 14. And there was even points in my teenage life where I was in a wheelchair for going to the airport and getting A to B appointments. It was extremely bad. And so I was passed from pillar to post with this, because understandably, why would they think with just that symptom at the time that it would be endometriosis? So they thought I might have had a back condition or a spinal condition, joint problems, nerve problems. I was sent to bone specialists, rheumatoid specialists, mentioned could it be lupus, could it be such a thing? And it was just honestly such a long journey, and it wasn't until I started getting a lot more symptoms that I then heard of the word, because I ended up going to a physiotherapist who my parents paid for privately. Honestly, things cost them a fortune, and they wanted to do anything to try to help me. But I'd gone through school, I'd gone to college, and it was when I went to college, when I was on crutches every single day. My friends will remember, my family, it was like, I can't describe it. It was just constant agony, and I could barely stand. I could barely walk on them. But I was on crutches every single day, and it just got to the point where I had no quality of life whatsoever anymore. So my mum and dad found my physiotherapist who paid to see, and he was amazing. I saw him and another colleague who mentioned when it was my pelvis kept coming out of alignment, they said, and I shouldn't be having these problems really, and it can happen, but it'll get better. And so they were doing the physio, and it just wasn't getting better. I'd have very short-term relief, and then I'd be in agony again. I had my bloating that was starting with the painful periods. My back would go, I'd have pain constantly down my legs, bum, into my knees. It was just excruciating pain, and it became constant. It was the norm. No pain was just not an option. And it was when I saw the other physio and he was asking me questions. He said to me, with your back pain, do you have other symptoms? And I'd be like, oh yeah, I have this, I have that. Yeah, my periods are crazy painful. And my back constantly is so much worse when I'm on them. They're so heavy. So I had to go on the pill. I told them I had to go on the pill for them because they were that bad. And then that stopped the bleeding for a while. But he said to me, well, have you ever heard of endometriosis? Because I really feel like you could have it. And I was like, no, what's that? Me and my dad looked at each other like, no, I've never heard of that before. And he explained to me how it's a gynecological condition, the symptoms it can cause, and I ticked every single box for it. It said how common it was, yet I'd never heard of it, as a lot of people don't, because it's just not spoken about enough, it's not out there enough, yet so many young girls and women will be suffering from it and not know and be wondering what's going on in my body. They'll be so down and depressed, anxious, confused, because it's not spoken about enough. GPs don't know about it enough, and there's just so little awareness and funding for it. And that's why I'm doing this, because I know how important it is to raise awareness to help people. So I went back to doctors, mentioned endometriosis after I'd done a lot of research on it. I said, I know I've not got a back condition. I said, because as we know, scans are coming back normal. There's some degenerative disc, but I was told myself that wouldn't cause the problems I was having. Maybe in later life it would, but not right now. And it was just the symptoms of my periods and painful sex, painful just joint pains. The bloating was crazy. There was just so many pains that honestly, the going to the toilet, chronic constipation I've suffered with for years, and I thought, why? I eat so much fruit and veg, I have a lot of fibre in my diet, I eat really well, so why is this happening? I'm a young girl, I shouldn't have these problems. Going for a wee as well was agony. I remember constant pulling pain in my stomach. I'm saying I remember, I still have all this now, but at the time, these were the things I was going through as a young girl, and just confused, like, why is this happening? And it was just constant, it's constant pulling in your stomach when you go into the toilet every single time, and it's agony. With my bowels, there'd be so many times I'd sit in the toilet, try to go, and then nothing for a week or more, and they were getting really concerned about it. They were wondering why are all these things happening, but they still wouldn't think about endometriosis for a long time. I kept saying to them, I'm having all the symptoms for it. We're looking at all these different things and putting them as separate things. Could it not be that these are all linked together? Could I not have this? And I was told, you're far too young to have it. You wouldn't have it at your age, and oh well, you've got a lot of pain and symptoms, and could it not be that it's more in your head or psychological? Do you suffer with anxiety? This is honestly, I'm pretty sure every girl and woman who has gone through this journey of endometriosis has been told at one point in their life, oh, is it psychological, maybe just hypersensitive to pain, and let's put you in therapy, let's have some counselling. And honestly, the amount of counsellors I was made to see for my pain, it honestly pushed me to the edge, very much so. A few years ago, I was in a terrible place as a young girl. I was trying to do my AS levels, A levels. Sadly, I had to drop out. I tried working from home. I managed to do my AS levels, but then when it came to my A levels, I remember waking up one day and I just couldn't get out of bed. I'd been, for the past months, using crutches daily, ambulances when I couldn't move, but this was different. I just could not get out of bed, and my mum became my carer because I couldn't do anything. I don't want to get upset, but yeah, it was very tough, really, really tough, because you just, at that age, you just don't understand what's going on in your body. And when you were being told constantly, nope, you won't have this. It's definitely psychological pain. You're too young to have these problems. You've got too many pains and symptoms for it to be all these different things. It was just really tough. And so my doctor had seen the state I was in. They could see that I was bedridden. I couldn't get out of bed anymore. I couldn't wash myself. Couldn't really even eat myself. My mum would have to hold a bowl for me and feed me because I was in that much pain. I couldn't move from my back. I would be in agony and have to go to hospital, have morphine drips, and they'd be scanning me, prodding me, wondering what's wrong. Scans coming back normal. And so this was the journey. That was my teenage years. Instead of going out for my 18th birthday, I made it out for a meal with my lovely friends. I had a really nice time, and then instead of going out for my first night out at a club, I ended up spending my 18th in an ambulance, trying to get morphine drips in me, and I spent a few nights in hospital. And I remember then a nurse saying, "This isn't right. You shouldn't be going through all this at your age. There is something seriously wrong. Why, this isn't right, the way you're being treated. They need to look at you properly." And I had so many, it was mainly nurses, lovely, kind, caring nurses who said, "This isn't right, we've seen this before, and there's definitely something wrong." Young people get dismissed a lot with health issues because they're young, and it's put down to psychological problems a lot, especially with endometriosis. It is, I think, because it affects women, not men. Women, they try to play that way, overreacting, and it's really not the case at all. It really isn't the case. When people see how catastrophic this disease is and the impacts it has on women's life in many ways. So that was my journey with pain, basically bedridden every day. And things got a lot worse, and it was when I was 16 I came off the pill because I was advised, let's try and have a break on it and see how it goes, because you're not bleeding. Let's see if your periods are regulating and you're not getting too much pain with it. And oh my gosh, it was absolute agony. I remember I had a friend over from college who stayed over, and it woke me up in the night because I'd come off the pill maybe days before, so it wasn't even that long. And I know it can come out of your system really quickly. And I woke up, it was a bloodbath. I was just, oh my god, the noises I was making. I was trying to wake her up, but no, because I just couldn't get any words out. I remember rolling round, I tried to stand, I fell to the floor, crawled in, managed to eventually knock on the door to my mum's. They opened the door, and it was just, they were like, "Oh my god, what's wrong? Is it your back?" I was like, "No, it's not my back." I was like, "I'm having a period and this is just what's going on." I was laying my mum's arms, throwing up. She had to hold my head because it was like I was fitting. I remember so clearly. It was just not normal. I thought, this is not right. The next day I spoke to my friend about it, and she was like, "Oh my god, no." She was like, "No, I don't have that in my periods." I'd ask my best friend, "Do you get this symptom? Do you get excruciating pain down your legs where you literally can't feel your legs or your bum? Do you get awful pulling pains down and out of your vagina and bum?" And and I'd ask, "Oh, does this happen when you have sex? Is it really painful? Like you feel like your insides are on fire and being ripped out of you?" And they just were like, "No, no, that really doesn't happen. I think you need to see someone about that, Courtney." But so all these things are happening. I started to realise, okay, I really agree with the physio I was seeing. I think I could have endometriosis, and I did all my research on it, and it was all coming up every single time. Even if I didn't mention the word, I'd type in a symptom or two and it'd be like endometriosis, and I thought, yeah, okay. And when I read about the impact on fertility, that was what really did things for me. I was getting quite worried because although I was a very young girl, a teenager going through it from the start, more than anything, I've always wanted to be a mum. That's been my dream from as long as I can remember to be a mum. So I thought, I really need to get onto this now and see what's going on. And I had no quality of life. I was disabled. I could not function. I couldn't move. I had to be lifted sometimes into a bath and lifted downstairs and helped carry into the car at times. Honestly, it was just, I couldn't use my body. My back and legs did not work, and things were getting worse. So I'd had scans done. They agreed to see a gynecologist, and the first woman I saw at my doctor's, it wasn't at a hospital, it wasn't like, it was their gynecologist, she actually put me off her idea. She went, no, you're far too young. It won't. She was really nice. She did loads of checks for me, checked other things that she thought could have been wrong, but she said, no, you're far too young. You won't have endometriosis. And she tried to scare me because I said about laparoscopy. I've heard that is the way, because scans come back normal, to look. I said, I'm in that much pain. I have no life. I've had to leave my A-levels. I can't hold down a job. I tried working, and just nothing at all. My life was just gone. I said, I need this operation because I know I have endometriosis. I just know I have it. And she said to me with my mum, well, if it goes wrong, Courtney, and you haven't got endometriosis, which I don't think you have, you could wake up with a massive gash all down your stomach if it goes wrong. And it was basically saying the things that are like a 1 million chance of happening that just, I know they can happen. I do know that. And I know it happens to some women. It's so sad, but it could happen to me. You don't know. But my point is she knew full well that wasn't going to happen. She knew I needed that operation because I was suffering so much, but she tried to scare me. She didn't want me to have it. And so it was back to the beginning, waiting longer, but things got worse. I just had no life. I couldn't stand. I just couldn't move. The amount of times I'd even have friends round at mine. I remember one night and my back went and I was screaming. It was just so embarrassing. I couldn't move. I was on my back. I was like, oh God, I don't know what to do. And then later on that night afterwards, I had an ambulance. It was just constantly ambulances, spending time in hospital on morphine drips and things that weren't normal at my age. I shouldn't be needing a drug that is that strong if they say nothing's wrong with me. I'm not a hypochondriac, so I have quite a high pain threshold, as most of us do with endo, because we're so used to being in pain every single day anyway that we've got to accept some of it and we've got to normalise some of it, otherwise we wouldn't have a life, we wouldn't function because we're always in pain. So when we say we're in pain, we are in pain and we need to get to hospital. We know something's not right, we need a scan. Have we got a burst cyst? Has it grown back? Is it getting worse again? Is it affecting your bowel? Is it, honestly, just, this is what I'm saying, you know your body. If you've been told before, no, you've not got endometriosis, or no, you've not got a gynecological condition, or any health condition, autoimmune disease, anything for that matter, if they've said to you, no, you won't have it, keep pushing on, keep pushing, because all my scans were coming back normal. They said, oh, your pelvis looks really healthy, everything is in perfect condition, and you're definitely nothing, absolutely normal. The amount of times I heard, oh, everything looks absolutely normal, there's nothing wrong with you, enjoy your young life, live your life. And they couldn't have been more wrong. So basically, things were taking forever, and my parents could see how much I was suffering, and we all knew I had endometriosis at this point, because I remember passing out off the toilet after I tried to open my bowels, and that was a massive thing for me. My bowels were just, I'd bleed a lot, like a lot of blood, could barely open, and I suffer with terrible chronic constipation because of endometriosis and adhesions that I have with my bowel from a second operation, because the more surgeries you have, it can cause adhesions and the disease itself. But yeah, so I'd passed out off the toilet and I remember just shaking, being sick, and then again I had a period shortly after when I was actually on a waiting list. I was literally due a month to have my first laparoscopy to check for endo, and I remember having one of the worst periods ever where it was like I was fitting. I just remember my body had gone into shock, I was shaking, throwing up, and I was actually choking on my sick. And my ex at the time, I remember, had to turn me, and my parents, as soon as they got back, rang an ambulance. And it's not a joke, it is a seriously debilitating disease. And for them to say when a young girl is there nearly choking on a sick because she's in that much pain and has passed out from a period, which you should be able to just take an ibuprofen or paracetamol and get on with the day, shouldn't impact you like that. It should feel slightly uncomfortable but not painful to that point. And for them to say, no, you're too young, or it's all in your head when you're having these actual symptoms, is just crazy. And it mind blows me how they say this to so many girls, even though it's so common. I know they diagnose so many people with this every single year. Even though it takes 5 to 7 years or longer to get a diagnosis, some women can go throughout all their life to be fighting for it, and it's only until they try to have children and they're not getting pregnant that they think, right, okay, yeah, we'll do a laparoscopy, even though you've told us how much you've been suffering with pain and symptoms all your life. We'll do one now. And it can destroy women's life. It does affect fertility, and it can cause infertility, it can cause excruciating pain symptoms, and it is very much a disability in the sense, for me, I'm not working at the moment. I haven't been able to yet. I'm 21, and more than anything, I would like to eventually be able to get back in some kind of education, because I always love to learn and I had plans for what I wanted to do. But I've accepted things, I accept where I'm at, and that's what you've got to do. I've realised that mindset is everything, and that's what's got me through after my diagnosis, because before then I was in a very low state because I was